G'day! We're going to have a look into the new Dell Pro 13 Plus. It's a 13-inch business laptop. Now this is part of the new rebranding and renaming of all the Dell computers, and just to keep it again, quick note is the Dell Pro means it's a business laptop, and the Plus just means that it's a little bit better than the base model, and 13 is basically the screen size or form factor. Now this actually comes in two types of form factors. You got your clamshell, which is a traditional laptop, and the 2-in-1. Now this one I've got here is the 2-in-1. What that means is you can pretty much flip its display around and become a tablet, and you've got your temp mode or stuff and so on and so on. Now of course it does have touchscreen support for this one here, as it is a 2-in-1, and it does also have a digital stylus support. Now I will do the line jitter test later on in the video, so stick around for that. Now this actually runs off the new Intel Core Ultra Series 2, and this is using the Arrow Lake, so it's a U series processor there. This is your equivalent to around about the Dell Latitude 7000 series. So hopefully that gives you an idea where this kind of sits. Let's have a look at ports. Starting on the right hand side, we've got the security lock slot, which is the wedge shape, and then we've got a USB type A port, which is USB 3.2 Gen 1, and this has power share. And then we've got a headphone jack, and then there's the optional nano SIM card slot. And looking on the left hand side, we've got two Thunderbolt 4 ports. Now you can use any of these two to charge the laptop with. And then we've got a USB type A port, which is USB 3.2 Gen 1, and then a full-size HDMI port, which is version 2.1. The Dell Pro 13 Plus 2-in-1 comes with a 55 watt-hour battery. And when I tested out the battery life, I managed to get 11 hours and 42 minutes for the Modern Office battery life test in PC Mark 10, 2 hours and 22 minutes for gaming, and 11 hours and 36 minutes for video playback on the Procom battery life test. Now I consider this all-day battery life, considering that we're nearly hitting 12 hours, and I really don't expect now everyone to work more than 12 hours. For looking at temperatures and fan noise, when I took my measurement, the ambient temperature room was 20 degrees Celsius. And just to give you an idea how hot or how cool this laptop could be, my hand measured in anywhere between 35 to 36 degrees Celsius at this room temperature. So I took my base measurement when the computer was idle, and the hottest air around the keyboard measured maximum of 30 degrees Celsius. As for fan, it pretty much stayed silent at 35 decibels, and the average internal core temperature was 38 degrees Celsius. Then I'll put 20% load on the computer. That's pretty much average use. That's tasks like office productivity work, surfing web, streaming videos, and the hottest air around the keyboard stayed at 30 degrees Celsius. And as for the fan, it did spin up a little bit, and you did hear a little bit of it, and measured in a peak of 36 decibels. And the average internal core temperature was 49 degrees Celsius. Then I put 50% load on the computer, and the hottest air around the keyboard measured a peak of 33 degrees Celsius. And as for the fan, it did spin up a little bit more and reach a peak of 37 decibels. And the average internal core temperature was 60 degrees Celsius. Then I'll put 100% load on all the system resources, and the hottest air around the keyboard measured a maximum of 36 degrees Celsius. And as for the fan, it spun all the way up to a maximum of 38 decibels, which is still very quiet, and the average internal core temperature was 61 degrees Celsius. While I maintain 100% ionization on all the system resources, I changed the fan thermal profile into ultra performance in the Dell optimizer to allow the computer to run at its maximum potential, and the hottest air around the keyboard measured a maximum of 35 degrees Celsius. And as for the fan, it reached a peak of 48 decibels, and the average internal core temperature was 66 degrees Celsius. I also measured the bottom back cover, where I had 100% ionization on all the system resources, and the bottom back cover measured a maximum of 41 degrees Celsius. And of course, it stayed at 48 decibels. Core has been controlled to anywhere to reach a maximum peak of 70 degrees. I don't really see it higher than 70 degrees Celsius. So they are really controlling it down to keep the actual fan noise at a bare minimum as possible. So definitely, which is not too bad for this type of computers, as this computer is more than likely really be running around with your office productivity work rather than your heavy maximum load work. the build construction of the Dell Pro 13 Plus, now this is the 2-1, and also the clamshell, it is made of entirely aluminium. So you got aluminium on the top cover, the bottom cover, and also the palm rest. Now at least 50% of it is made from recycled aluminium, which is absolutely fantastic. Now I'm going to just do the usual bend test and flex test. I'm expecting it to do extremely well. As you can see, it's got quite a bit of thickness, so it's going to be really, and these are built, designed to be really sturdy here. Really hard. So see, I don't really have much flex or bend on this thing here. And again, I'm expecting the same thing for the keyboard. It doesn't really hear any keyboard flex. Now I do know that the actual fan is on this side here, and I don't hear any of the fan going zzz when I press on it. So again, very well built for that. Now I'm also going to do the hinge test. Now one finger. Now this is a 2-in-1, so I expect to do a little bit better than the Dell Pro 14 Plus for this, as this has a different hinge build. And oh, interesting enough, very similar. Still grips it quite a bit all the way through. I'm gonna have to use another finger here for it. So there you go. It's gripping all the way through. And then yep, and then let's go. And of course, it's being a 2-in-1. We'll do it 360 degrees. Now, just to give you an idea, actually the bottom part here, as you get past 90 degrees, it starts lifting the bottom part of it using the actual rear end of the display, and then it just lifts it up just so. So that's it. Now I'm actually going to quickly do the wiggle test. Now, is it clamping? Now the actual Dell Pro 14 didn't have clamp and had clamping issues, and I'm gonna have to say this, it's a little bit better, but it exhibits a little bit. It is not fully like really closing fully, but it's a little bit better. It's not fully let it go, but it's not like a really nice clamp shut from what I've seen from other laptops. So this is something I've got to say, I think Dell might have to just look into, just smooth out this hinge here just to make it more premium feel to it. For the opening for one finger, it is quite stiff in that sense here, but generally does its job there. That's what I can say. There are two bottom firing speakers located on the bottom front of the laptop, and when I tested out the maximum volume of the speakers, it managed to measure a peak of 86.1 decibels. Now I consider this in the medium range compared to other laptops, and as for business laptops, again I will consider this in the medium range. Now you shouldn't have any issues if you're doing a video conference when you're outdoors or in a cafe. It is actually decently loud enough. As for the sound quality of the speakers, these were very similar to the Dell Pro 14 Plus, which I tested earlier. It's got a low amount of bass, but it's still present, so it's not missing there. It's got very strong highs, and it is balanced towards the highs for voice, but it still can consume multimedia with it. It's got decent reverb due to the bottom firing speakers and nice acoustics. And when it's in tablet mode, the speakers are firing towards the user as it folds towards, so that actually gives a nice boost in terms of the acoustics for it, and you can hear it 360 degrees. So no problems with the sound there, and it is a business laptop, so I can understand that it is towards the highs and mids for the better vocals. Let's have a look underneath the hood. First off is the 55 watt hour battery at the bottom here, and the battery connector is right here. Now above the battery is the 2 SODIMM slot for the memory, and it has a maximum capacity in total for both is 64 gigs. So 32 gigs on each SODIMM slot makes a combine of 64 gigs. On the left hand side is a storage or SSD, and it has the ability to take on the M.2 2280 format here. And then we got the Wi-Fi Bluetooth module right smack in the middle, and then we can see it is a single fan setup here and a single heat pipe, and the processor lives right here, and pretty much the airflow goes from the bottom and goes directly straight out. Now I want to make a special mention about the 2 Thunderbolt ports, which is located right here. This in the Dell Pros is a serviceable component, so when there is a fault with the Thunderbolts, and this is actually quite a common fault, and that's not because of Dell, it's just because of how a lot of business computers are used. They usually have a docking station, and there you plug this in and out, and it just gets loose. So I just call it loosey-goosey for these things, and then we always have to do service calls. So this component here is quite common for us to ask for service cores, and it's great to see Dell have actually made this as a separate component, so you don't need to actually change the whole mainboard when you need to change this. Now, what makes this important, especially in a Microsoft framework environment or Microsoft environment, is that if you are Intune enrolled for this device itself, and if they change the mainboard, you need to deregister and enroll for the actual computer itself, which is actually quite a bit of a hassle. But if this is just a serviceable component here, the mainboard stays the same. So it has the same UID, but we don't need to actually change that. And especially this is very important if your network is using certificates for the network. What does that impact? Well, it makes the job life of an IT department, IT personnel, and also its users, so you don't have to de-roll and re-register and re-enroll a computer, so it saves you a bit of time and also a lot of hassle as well. The 2-in-1 does have digital stylus support, so here is the Dell PN5122W digital stylus I'm going to use to test out the line jitter test as well as the display. Now, just a quick note about the PN5122W. It does have 2 buttons on the side, and that's about it. It uses a quadruple A battery, and this is just a screw top on here to access the battery itself. You just got to really unscrew it. So it takes a fairly lot, and then you'll see the battery here. Now, I have not got it long enough to actually know how long the battery lasts. I'm guessing it will probably be around about anywhere between 6 months to about 8 months, and it really depends on how much you use of the battery itself. So it's actually not as long as the previous ones that I've used before, which for many years when I started channels, it's actually gone a little bit shorter, but that's not too bad. But it's got a nice thickness to it, and it is nice and round. Now, there does include the replacement nibs for it, and it's just 2 nibs, which is nice. Now let's get on with this line jitter test on this. Now I'm just going to quickly tell you that the actual writing of this is actually a bit soft. It has a nice little soft push into the display. I would actually say that it will be nice and quiet and soft, is it? And it's quite smooth. So this is just a line jitter. I'm doing it really slowly along the lines here. And I'm going to bring in a ruler just to give you an idea. So again, that was with my palm touching the display. Now I'm going to leave my palm not touching the display so you can see how that is. So we'll just do that. This is the line jitter test here, and it's just diagonal. So the faster you go, it usually gets a little bit straighter. Now I'm also going to bring in just microfiber cloth just to see how this. So I'm actually not really technically touching the display. And we'll just see how that reacts. Does it do any better here? It's about a little bit the same here for that. Now I'm also going to bring this again back in the ruler, and we'll again with the 1 touch, and I'm going to put a 2nd touch in there. See, that's now touching there, and I'm going to try and draw this with it. Ooh, that's interesting, isn't it? How that has decided to do that. That's probably because I've got a few fingers touching probably about 5 points of contact into the display for this. So that's kind of, so it has really maintained all those lines here. Now I'm just also going to do the horizontal lines here. Now, because this is actually very glass smooth, and it is glass smooth because it is glass, but I have a bit of moist fingers, so my hands is getting a little bit sticky on some sides when I'm actually moving across the display. So I know a lot of digital stylists will have, if using gloves to help this out. So as you can see, that's a lot more nice, and it feels smoother. So those who actually use gloves for digital stylus support, I think that's a very great idea. And now I'm just going to do my swirls. I'll just do my best to do these swirls. My palm is on the display itself, so I'm just showing you here. So just doing the swirls here and just testing the parallax. Now it's actually quite quick, so it is chasing the pen on the where it is, so it's actually quite quick. That's really good. It's very reactive there. I like that. It is pressure sensitive, so I'm just going to push into the display, and then I'm just going to let it lightly draw on it, and then push back into the display and lightly again, and push back in and lightly again. Now you will have to get used to, as you see, there's a few disconnects. That's just me lightly, and you will have to get used to how lightly it will before it disconnects from there. But also, it's not doing too bad here. And I'll just do some writing here. Here's the results of the benchmarks performed on the Dell Pro 13 Plus. Results for Pass Mark, Citybench 2024, PC Mark, 3D Mark, Cross Mark, Crystal Disk Mark, Geekbench 6, Procon Office, Procon NPU, Procon Windows ML, Procon Image AI, Blender, Luxmark, Eugene Engine, and SpecView Pref 2020. Overall, with the Dell Pro 13 Plus 2-in-1, it actually does a decent job. I love actually hearing that Dell have actually really listened to a lot of the clients' feedback and actually produced this laptop. It may not be the thinnest. I know a lot of people have been saying it's not the thinnest thing. I can see that, and Dell also acknowledges as they're not really actually looking for doing the thin, because really they want the ports, and I agree with that. Having the actual I/O ports so I don't have to carry adapters with me is absolutely a fantastic thing. I'd rather have it sturdy, as this goes between a lot of hands, as these are business laptops. Kind of treat it like a rental car. You want it to be robust and able to take a beat, and that's what this Dell Pro series do. And also the fact that they actually made it really easy to manage, especially for the IT department, and having that new serviceable Thunderbolt or USB-C port, and you don't have to unenroll and re-enroll. That is absolutely fantastic. I love when they really think of help out the IT and managing a fleet of computers. Then that's what business laptops are. And overall, this Dell Pro 13 Plus, it actually does a lot of calming jobs in terms of what it is specifically designed for those who are executives and those who actually do a lot of presentations, a lot of word processing, and also spreadsheets. So they're kind of light tasks, and that's what this is for, and it is a great computer for those who are looking for that. Now, I hope you find this video informative and enjoyed it. If you did and support my channel, smash that like button for me, share this video, it does help me out. And as always, imperfections in life makes it beautiful and interesting, and I'll see you next video.